My heart raced as I held the delicate wedding invitation in my hand, the elegant script of Lucas Bennett's name staring back at me as if mocking the past. "I cannot believe this is happening," I whispered under my breath, the words trembling out into the quiet of my Philadelphia apartment, sunlight streaming through the tall windows and spilling onto my blueprints, casting long shadows across the desk. The warm summer light did little to ease the fluttering in my chest, the golden rays brushing across my hands as I clutched the paper with a mix of apprehension and disbelief. I sank into the chair by the window, letting my gaze wander over the familiar lines and sketches that had always been my refuge, trying to anchor myself in the one place that still felt like mine. The city hummed faintly in the background, the distant sounds of traffic and pedestrians filtering up from the streets below, but all I could focus on was the weight of the invitation and the wave of emotions it carried. My fingers traced the edges of the card, feeling the texture of the thick paper, each subtle ridge a reminder of the life Lucas had chosen to move forward with, a life that now included my own sister. The thought made my chest tighten, a knot of confusion and disbelief mingling with the residual warmth of old memories, and I could not decide whether to feel anger, sadness, or an odd sense of inevitability. I rose slowly, moving to the window and letting the sun warm my face, inhaling deeply as if the golden light could steady the storm within me. Outside, the city glimmered with promise and activity, yet here I was, caught in a suspended moment where past and present collided. I placed the invitation on the windowsill, watching it catch the sunlight, and felt a strange clarity begin to emerge among the jumble of emotions. The morning breeze fluttered the sheer curtains around me, carrying with it the scent of blooming flowers from the street below, and I realized that no matter what had happened, I was still here, still myself, standing quietly yet firmly in my own space. My gaze lingered on the invitation, the neat handwriting of my name and Lucas's sister's name a delicate contrast to the turmoil within me, and I knew that this moment, though heavy with uncertainty, was the first step toward something that could no longer be predicted. Every breath I took seemed amplified in the bright room, each inhalation filling me with a tentative courage, each exhalation releasing a fragment of the tension coiling tight in my chest. I allowed myself one more long look at the invitation before setting it down carefully on the desk, the morning sun glinting off the glass of my water tumbler nearby, the soft light illuminating the edges of my blueprints and the surface of the desk, as if the world outside had paused to acknowledge the weight of the choice that lay ahead. And in that stillness I could hear the quiet voice inside me, steady and determined, reminding me that I was more than the circumstances I had inherited from the past, that I could navigate this unexpected path with grace, and that what came next, whatever form it would take, would reveal itself in time, demanding patience, attention, and a courage I had only just begun to call forth. Time seemed to stretch as I sat at my desk in the sunlit Philadelphia studio, whispering to myself, time to focus on what I love. The morning light poured through the large windows, illuminating the polished wood floors and the scattered blueprints across the table. My fingers hovered over the pencil, tracing lines on the paper, as if each stroke could reshape my sense of calm in the world. Outside, the city moved with its usual rhythm, the faint hum of traffic, distant conversations, and the occasional chime of a bicycle bell weaving through the streets below. Inside, the space was warm and quiet, a safe haven from the rush of thoughts that swirled in my mind since opening that wedding invitation. The barista from the cafe next door waved through the window, carrying a tray of steaming lattes to a customer outside. I smiled faintly, acknowledging the familiar gesture, feeling the subtle connection to life continuing beyond my contemplation. My assistant, Rachel, entered with a stack of design mock-ups, her eyes bright with enthusiasm. "Claire, these new drafts could really shine under natural lighting," she said, placing the papers gently on my desk. I nodded, offering a small but genuine smile, appreciating the support and energy that came from collaboration. As I adjusted the layout of a community center floor plan, I allowed my thoughts to drift for a moment, imagining the completed project, the way sunlight would dance across the interior spaces, the soft laughter of children echoing through the hallways. Each detail I refined in my work felt like a reclamation of focus, a quiet reclaiming of the life that had been momentarily unsettled by unexpected news. I sipped the hot coffee Rachel had brought, the aroma grounding me, reminding me that moments of warmth and clarity could exist even in the shadow of complex emotions. With each line drawn, each measurement checked, and each adjustment made, I could feel a gentle but persistent strength building within me, a determination to remain centered and purposeful. Yet, despite the productivity and the sunlit comfort of the studio, a lingering tension hovered at the edges of my consciousness, a question unanswered and an uncertainty about the path that lay ahead. The invitation still rested on my desk, a subtle pulse in the background of my thoughts, nudging me to consider the choices that the future demanded. The mixture of sunlight, paper, and whispered determination created a delicate equilibrium, a calm surface concealing the undercurrents of anticipation and emotional challenge. I could hear the soft shuffle of papers, the muted clatter of pens, and the occasional bird calling outside, but it was all framed by the quiet intensity of my own focus. I took a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the warmth of the studio, the encouragement of Rachel, and the grounding ritual of my work envelop me, yet the subtle question of what attending the wedding might bring lingered, unresolved and hovering in the back of my mind, a thread of curiosity and anticipation weaving through the carefully constructed calm, hinting that the next step in my journey would soon demand attention and courage. People are always going to talk, I whispered to myself, the words barely audible over the gentle hum of the bustling Philadelphia cafe where I had sought refuge for the afternoon. The sky outside was a soft gray, clouds drifting lazily across the horizon, and a mild breeze caused the sheer curtains to sway, creating shifting patterns of light and shadow on the polished wood tables. Friends gathered in small groups, sipping lattes and chatting quietly, their voices a comforting backdrop to my thoughts. I could hear snippets of conversations from nearby tables, whispers and laughter, a tapestry of human interaction that reminded me that the world continued, indifferent to my inner turmoil. One table over, a young couple discussed their upcoming engagement, their excitement palpable and infectious, while an elderly man quietly read a newspaper, occasionally looking up to watch the street outside. I took a deep breath, letting the aroma of freshly brewed coffee fill my senses, and allowed myself a small, tentative smile. I stood and moved toward the window, planting my hand lightly on the glass as I gazed at the street below, watching people pass, each lost in their own worlds yet all connected by the rhythm of the city. The murmurs about Lucas and my sister were there too, quiet but persistent, filtering through my mind like a distant echo, reminding me that whispers had power only if I allowed them to shape my perception. I walked slowly back to my table, adjusted my notebook, and began to jot down notes for my upcoming architectural sketches, each line a deliberate act of focus, a methodical reclaiming of mental space from the subtle anxiety that lingered at the edges of my awareness. Rachel, my assistant, peeked around the corner with a tray of pastries, her cheerful greeting momentarily lifting the weight of my contemplation. "Claire, you look deep in thought today," she said, placing the plate gently on the table, her presence a comforting anchor in the sea of ambient noise. I nodded, appreciating the normalcy she brought, and allowed myself to take a sip of coffee, letting the warmth spread through me and steady my nerves. I observed the pedestrians outside, couples holding hands, a child skipping along the sidewalk, the ordinary flow of life persisting despite the undercurrents of gossip swirling around me. My gaze lingered on the cafe entrance as more patrons arrived, each bringing their own stories, their own concerns, their own quiet triumphs and failures, and I felt a complex mix of empathy and separation, a reminder of my place in a broader world that did not pause for personal drama. As I adjusted my chair and returned to my sketches, I felt the familiar rhythm of creativity returning, each stroke of pencil on paper a small declaration of presence, an assertion that I was here, engaged, and capable of directing my focus despite the whispers and judgments. Yet, the lingering tension remained, a quiet question mark hovering at the edges of my consciousness, as though the soft hum of the cafe could not completely mask the unresolved feelings tugging at my heart, leaving me with a curiosity and apprehension that promised the next chapter of my journey would require both courage and clarity. "She always hesitates too much," the words echoed softly in my mind, a phrase casually thrown by Lucas Bennett during a brief encounter in the sunlit lobby of the boutique hotel where I had decided to take a break from my studio. The afternoon was warm, sunlight spilling through the tall glass windows, casting long shifting shadows across the polished marble floors. Guests moved gracefully through the space, some checking in, others enjoying the quiet lounge with its soft jazz playing in the background. I stood near the large potted ferns, my hand lightly touching the cool ceramic of a planter, as if to ground myself against the sudden pang of emotion Lucas's words had triggered. A hotel receptionist passed by, offering a polite smile, unaware of the turbulence swirling inside me. I exhaled slowly, my gaze drifting toward the grand chandelier above, its crystals catching the sunlight and scattering tiny prisms across the walls, a reminder that light could still break through even in moments of discomfort. Lucas's laugh had been light, almost indifferent, as if the comment held no weight, yet in the quiet of the lobby, it settled heavily upon my thoughts. I adjusted my posture, standing a little straighter, shoulders squared, feeling the heat rise slightly in my cheeks, a mixture of embarrassment and lingering surprise at the audacity of hearing my past so casually referenced. I noticed a young family nearby, the child's laughter echoing against the marble walls, the simplicity of their joy a sharp contrast to the complicated feelings coiling within me. I sipped from my water bottle, letting the cold liquid soothe the sudden tension in my throat, reminding myself that I was here, present, and capable of maintaining composure despite the uninvited words. The lobby's warm hues, the soft murmur of conversations, and the gentle scent of fresh flowers blended into a delicate cocoon around me, offering a momentary reprieve as I processed the unexpected interaction. I let my fingers graze the edge of the polished reception desk, feeling the smooth surface beneath, grounding myself further, while my mind replayed the phrase again and again, parsing tone, intent, and hidden meaning, trying to make sense of the seemingly casual remark. A bellhop passed, rolling a suitcase past my line of sight, and for a brief second, the ordinary motions of the hotel life contrasted with the inner whirl of thoughts and emotions, making me acutely aware of the balance between external calm and internal turbulence. I took a deep breath, the sun warming my face through the expansive windows, allowing the natural light to blend with the soft indoor illumination, and in that delicate mixture, I found a momentary steadiness. Yet, as I turned to glance at the entrance, wondering if he would appear again, or if the comment would echo further in unforeseen ways, a subtle tension remained unresolved, the question of how to navigate the lingering presence of past connections still hovering at the edges of my consciousness, teasing the possibility of an unexpected challenge in the moments to come. I am still me, and that is enough, I whispered to myself, the words a quiet mantra against the lingering weight of uncertainty that had shadowed my morning. The late afternoon sun streamed through the large windows of my Philadelphia studio, casting warm, golden light across the scattered blueprints and drafting tools on my desk. Outside, a gentle breeze stirred the leaves of the streetside trees, carrying with it the faint scent of freshly baked bread from the cafe below, a comforting reminder of life moving steadily on. My assistant, Rachel, placed a stack of newly printed architectural plans beside me, her presence a grounding influence amidst the swirl of thoughts and emotions. She smiled gently, sensing the mixture of reflection and determination in my gaze, and offered a reassuring, "You have this, Claire. Every line you draw tells your story." I nodded, letting the words settle, feeling the quiet empowerment of control returning to my hands. I stood and moved to the sunlit corner of the studio, brushing my fingers over the smooth surface of the drafting table, feeling the familiar textures and letting the light guide my eyes across the intricate sketches. The warmth on my skin, the faint scent of graphite and ink, and the subtle hum of the city beyond the windows created a cocoon of calm focus, a sanctuary where past distractions and unspoken judgments could not intrude. As I reviewed the blueprints for the community center project, I felt a gentle surge of pride and clarity, the culmination of careful thought, creativity, and resilience shaping each curve and line into something tangible and meaningful. Outside, the city moved with a rhythm that was both persistent and soothing, the distant chatter of pedestrians, the occasional honk of a car horn, and the laughter of children playing in nearby parks blending into a harmonious backdrop for my focused energy. I closed my eyes briefly, breathing in the air warmed by the sun, imagining the completed building filled with light, life, and the subtle echoes of human interaction, and for a moment, I allowed myself to savor the sense of purpose and achievement. Yet, despite the comfort and clarity of the present, a quiet tension remained, a soft whisper of uncertainty about what lay ahead, and the invitation that had sparked this journey still rested on the corner of my desk, its elegant script a reminder that the world beyond these walls was ready to challenge and surprise me once more. I let my fingers brush the edge of the paper, feeling the subtle weight of its presence, and glanced out the window again, watching the sunlight glint on the street below, the ordinary bustle contrasting with the extraordinary stirrings of my own heart. The warmth of the studio, the guiding presence of Rachel, and the deliberate act of creating something lasting grounded me. Yet the invitation hinted at an upcoming chapter that would test my resolve, my composure, and my ability to remain true to myself amidst the quiet currents of curiosity and anticipation that now threaded through my afternoon. I turned back to the blueprints, each pencil stroke deliberate, each adjustment a reaffirmation that I could navigate the challenges ahead. But the subtle question of the unknown loomed just beyond the sunlit window, unresolved and beckoning with the promise of discovery and growth. "Those were our best days and lessons learned," I murmured softly, letting the words drift through the quiet of my Philadelphia studio as the late afternoon sun bathed the room in a warm amber glow. Outside the large floor-to-ceiling windows, the sky was tinged with soft shades of orange and pink, the gentle breeze causing the leaves on the street-side trees to sway delicately, sending flickering shadows across the hardwood floors. The studio was filled with the faint scent of paper and ink, the blueprints spread across the wide drafting table like maps of both my aspirations and memories. My assistant, Rachel, hovered nearby, arranging the new sketches with careful precision, her presence a quiet reassurance as I allowed myself to revisit the moments Lucas and I had shared. I could almost hear the faint echoes of our laughter in the apartment where we had once brainstormed startup ideas, the energy of those nights when possibilities felt endless and the world seemed aligned with our ambitions. Each flashback was like a delicate photograph, suspended in time, reminding me both of the joy we had created and the inevitable unraveling that followed. I picked up a pencil, my fingers tracing the lines on the new project plans, each motion deliberate, a way of anchoring myself in the present while acknowledging the past. The afternoon light shifted subtly, dancing across the room and glinting off the edges of my tools, grounding me in a rhythm of creation that was entirely my own. Rachel glanced up at me, sensing the complexity of my focus, and offered a soft, "It is remarkable how far you have come, Claire." I nodded quietly, feeling a warm mix of gratitude and determination, the recognition of my own resilience mingling with the bittersweet remembrance of what had once been. Outside, the street hummed with the muted cadence of urban life, footsteps echoing softly against the pavement, distant voices carrying the undertones of ordinary conversations, and the occasional horn of a car punctuating the calm. I let my eyes wander back to the sketches, imagining the final form of the community center, the sunlight spilling through the windows, children laughing, the gentle energy of a place designed to inspire and nurture. Each stroke of pencil and measured decision on the blueprint was both a reclamation and an assertion. I was here, fully present, shaping the world with intention, yet still carrying the echoes of past experiences that had sculpted my journey. The delicate interplay of past and present, the lingering warmth of the sunlight, and the reassuring presence of Rachel created a sanctuary in which I could reflect, plan, and subtly prepare for whatever unforeseen encounters awaited me. Yet, beneath the surface of this composed activity, an unspoken tension lingered, the subtle awareness that the path ahead might once again test my composure, patience, and ability to remain true to myself. The unresolved question of Lucas's wedding and the emotions it stirred hovered quietly in my mind, like a soft shadow at the edges of the sunlit room, leaving me with a sense of anticipation, curiosity, and the delicate thrill of uncertainty about the next steps of a journey that was still very much unfolding. "I needed to find my own path," I whispered, the words drifting softly as I stepped out of my Philadelphia studio into the warm embrace of an early summer afternoon. The streets were lined with old brick buildings, their facades bathed in golden sunlight, and the gentle rustling of leaves from nearby trees created a soothing rhythm against the distant hum of city traffic. I walked slowly along the sidewalks, the smooth pavement beneath my feet grounding me in the present as memories of the past occasionally flickered through my mind. Passers-by moved around me, absorbed in their own lives, yet I could not shake the subtle weight of lingering uncertainty from Lucas's wedding invitation, a quiet tension that accompanied each step. At a small corner cafe I paused, inhaling the rich aroma of brewing coffee and fresh pastries wafting through the air, momentarily allowing the sensory comfort to steady my thoughts. I noticed a young barista arranging cups with care, her precise movements and friendly smile providing an unspoken reassurance, a simple reminder that ordinary moments could offer unexpected calm. As I continued my walk, I felt the warmth of the sun on my shoulders and the soft breeze carrying scents of blooming flowers from nearby planters, each breath reminding me that the city, in all its vibrancy, was alive with possibility beyond my own internal struggles. I allowed myself to observe, to notice the life around me. Children laughing as they chased a ball across a small patch of park, an elderly couple sharing a quiet conversation on a bench, friends greeting one another with smiles and handshakes. Each interaction was a subtle lesson in connection and resilience, highlighting that even amidst personal challenges, life's rhythm persisted. I paused at a street corner, letting the movement of the city wash over me, and reflected on how far I had come since leaving New York, carving out a life that blended purpose with peace, and how the past, while ever present, no longer defined my trajectory. My thoughts wandered to the design project awaiting me at the studio, the community center that would soon become a hub for creativity and collaboration, and I felt a surge of determination, a renewed sense of agency in shaping my own narrative. Yet, as I resumed walking, a subtle tension lingered, the question of how to navigate the upcoming wedding, the possible encounter with Lucas, and the emotions tied to it, weaving a quiet thread of anticipation through my afternoon. Each step forward was a delicate balance of embracing the present, honoring the past, and cautiously preparing for the uncertainty of what lay ahead. The ordinary bustle of the city, the gentle sun, and the small gestures of human kindness created a tapestry of calm, yet beneath it, a soft undercurrent of curiosity and apprehension hinted at the unfolding challenges of the next chapter, leaving me poised between reflection and the quiet thrill of anticipation. "This project will define me," I whispered under my breath as I stepped into the construction site for the community center. The late afternoon sun casting long shadows across the freshly poured concrete and scaffolding that stretched toward the sky. The air was warm, carrying the subtle scent of sawdust and freshly cut lumber, mingling with the faint aroma of blooming flowers from nearby planters, creating a heady mix that both invigorated and calmed me. Around me, workers moved with purpose, measuring beams, checking blueprints, and coordinating deliveries, each step echoing in the partially enclosed space, giving rhythm to the environment. I ran my fingers along the smooth surface of a newly installed beam, feeling the cool metal beneath my palm and grounding myself in the reality of what I was helping to create. Rachel, ever observant, appeared beside me with a notebook in hand, pointing out measurements and schedules, her calm voice offering guidance that allowed me to focus my thoughts. "Claire, the east wing is taking shape just as you envisioned. The light from the windows will flood the main hall perfectly," she said, her eyes reflecting pride in our work. I smiled faintly, letting the words settle, allowing a sense of accomplishment to rise within me as I walked through the skeletal halls, imagining how the sunlight would cascade across the polished floors once the windows were installed, how the space would resonate with the laughter of children and the quiet footsteps of visitors. A crane in the distance moved rhythmically, lifting materials, a metallic song that blended with the wind rustling through the scaffolding and the distant chatter of city life outside the fenced construction site. Each detail I adjusted in my mind, each corner visualized, was a reclaiming of both creativity and confidence, a reminder that my efforts were tangible and meaningful. I paused near a window frame that had yet to be set, letting the breeze brush against my face, taking in the warmth of the sun and the subtle hum of energy surrounding me. Construction materials, workers' conversations, and the soft chirping of birds in the nearby trees formed a delicate symphony, grounding me in the present while I plotted the possibilities of the center. Yet, beneath this calm and accomplishment, a small thread of tension lingered, a whisper of anticipation about how my work and presence might intersect with the unexpected challenges ahead, the lingering thoughts of Lucas and his sister casting faint shadows over the otherwise sunny afternoon. I took a deep breath, steadying my heartbeat, and allowed my gaze to wander across the site, noting how every beam, every blueprint, and every careful action contributed to a vision that was uniquely mine, even as the uncertainty of what was to come remained delicately unresolved, leaving me poised between present achievement and the silent curiosity of the next chapter. "Let us make this partnership meaningful," I whispered to myself, the words carrying a quiet determination as I stepped into the sleek, modern conference room of Daniel Harper's architectural firm in downtown Philadelphia. The late morning sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, bouncing off the glass and steel surfaces, filling the room with a sharp, energizing light that seemed to illuminate not just the space but the possibilities ahead. The scent of fresh coffee and polished wood lingered in the air, grounding me amidst the quiet hum of the city beyond. Daniel stood at the head of the large oak table, reviewing project proposals with a thoughtful expression, his presence both commanding and reassuring. "Claire, this vision of the community center has potential beyond what we imagined," he said, his voice calm yet filled with genuine excitement, extending a hand toward the detailed sketches spread across the table. I stepped forward, placing my own notes beside the sketches, feeling the tangible weight of responsibility and opportunity in my hands. As I pointed to specific areas of the plans, explaining the flow of light in space, the placement of communal areas in study rooms, I could see Daniel nodding, his keen eyes tracing each line and curve with interest and approval. Outside, the wind stirred the flags atop nearby buildings, a soft rustling that punctuated the quiet discussion, while occasional cars passed, their sounds muted by the tall office structures surrounding us. The intern, Michael, quietly observed from the corner, occasionally jotting down measurements or noting adjustments, his presence a subtle reminder of the collaborative effort required to bring the project to life. Each comment from Daniel, each affirmation of my ideas, sent a surge of validation and cautious excitement through me, mingling with the ever-present awareness of Lucas's wedding lingering at the edges of my thoughts. I traced my finger along the blueprint, imagining the community center filled with sunlight, laughter, and movement, visualizing how each design choice would impact real lives. As I shifted a chair slightly to get a better angle on the layout, I felt a quiet but persistent heartbeat of anticipation, knowing that this partnership not only reflected my professional growth, but also my personal resilience. The afternoon light shifted subtly, casting long diagonal beams across the polished floors, creating a dynamic play of shadow and illumination that mirrored the interplay of past and present in my own journey. Yet, despite the tangible progress, an unspoken tension hovered just beneath the surface, the lingering curiosity of how my role with Daniel might intersect with the unpredictable paths of the past, the wedding, and the emotions tied to it. Each deliberate movement, each careful observation of the blueprints, was both an assertion of agency and a subtle meditation on readiness, preparing me for the unresolved questions and opportunities that would soon demand clarity and courage, leaving the chapter on the cusp of transformation. "I did not expect to see him here," I whispered as I stepped into the elegantly decorated gala hall in downtown Philadelphia, the early evening sun filtering through the expansive windows and casting warm streaks across the polished marble floors. The venue buzzed with the quiet murmur of distinguished guests mingling, the soft clinking of glasses, and the faint strains of a string quartet in the background, creating a refined yet vibrant atmosphere. As I walked across the room, my gaze locked on Lucas, standing near the grand staircase with a subtle, surprised expression on his face, his posture betraying a brief hesitation that immediately drew my attention. I adjusted the strap of my clutch and inhaled deeply, letting the delicate scent of fresh flowers from the floral arrangements ground me as I stepped closer, feeling the soft sheen of the marble beneath my heels. Around us, waitstaff moved gracefully, balancing trays of hors d'oeuvres and champagne, while guests engaged in polite conversation, the gentle murmur of voices blending into a soothing yet tension-laden backdrop. I noticed a familiar face among the attendees, Claire's former colleague, who nodded subtly in acknowledgement, a quiet reminder of my support network and the life I had built independent of the past. Each step toward Lucas was measured, deliberate, as if the space itself demanded careful navigation of emotions and memories. The warm glow of chandeliers above reflected in the glass of the windows, illuminating both the opulence of the room and the subtle turbulence in my chest, the mingling of surprise, apprehension, and quiet confidence. As I approached, I could hear the faint shuffle of shoes on the marble floor, the soft rustle of evening gowns, and the muted laughter of other guests, all converging to form an almost cinematic backdrop against which our brief yet charged encounter unfolded. I took a steadying breath, allowing my shoulders to relax slightly, letting the anticipation settle into a poised readiness, knowing that the weight of the moment was balanced by the calm assertion of self that I had cultivated over weeks of preparation and reflection. My eyes met his, and for a fleeting second, the room seemed to pause, the conversations dimming into the background, leaving only the silent acknowledgement of shared history and unspoken tension. Yet even as the seconds stretched, the question of what would come next, how our paths might intertwine or diverge, lingered unresolved, leaving a delicate thread of suspense and curiosity woven through the glittering atmosphere of the gala, a subtle promise that the unfolding events of the evening would continue to test both composure and resolve. Now everyone sees the new me, I whispered under my breath as I entered the sunlit main hall of the completed community center. The late afternoon light streaming through the expansive windows and illuminating the polished floors with a golden glow. The room was alive with gentle murmurs of admiration as guests, including local officials and friends from the architectural community, moved gracefully through the space, their footsteps echoing softly against the high ceilings. Daniel Harper stood nearby, his posture relaxed yet attentive, observing the interactions and offering subtle guidance, his presence a reassuring anchor amid the quiet hum of activity. I walked slowly to the center of the room, feeling the warmth of sunlight on my shoulders, letting each measured step ground me in the reality of my accomplishments. The interns and staff moved about, adjusting chairs and arranging refreshments, their coordinated efforts a subtle dance that added rhythm and life to the environment. My eyes scanned the faces of those present, catching familiar nods of respect and surprise, the recognition of my contributions evident in their expressions. As I approached a group near the entrance, I could sense the shift in attention, the realization dawning that the ideas, energy, and design that had guided the center's creation were intertwined with my vision, and this acknowledgement, silent yet palpable, sent a subtle thrill through me. I allowed a soft, confident smile to settle on my lips, feeling the quiet power of being fully present and acknowledged without needing to assert it verbally. The scent of fresh flowers, the faint aroma of coffee from the refreshment tables, and the soft hum of conversations blended into a comforting background, amplifying the sense of achievement while keeping the moment intimate and personal. I paused near a sun-drenched window, letting my gaze wander across the hall, noting how the light accentuated the architectural lines and the open spaces, each detail reflecting the careful planning and resilience invested over months. A colleague approached with a small stack of photographs documenting the construction, and as I took them, I felt the weight of memories, efforts, and challenges past gently settling into a quiet pride. Yet even in this moment of recognition and calm, a subtle tension lingered beneath the surface, the unresolved curiosity about Lucas, the wedding, and how the strands of past and present might intersect once more, leaving a delicate, lingering question that hovered in the sunlit space. I took a slow, deliberate breath, letting the warmth of the light and the acknowledgement of my peers fill me with quiet confidence, all the while aware that the path forward, though illuminated by accomplishment, was still threaded with uncertainty and anticipation, promising the next chapter of discovery and self-realization. No words needed. I have my peace, I whispered to myself as I stepped onto the elevated stage of the community center, the late afternoon sun casting a golden hue through the large windows and illuminating the polished wooden floor beneath my feet. The room was filled with quiet anticipation, guests milling about in soft conversation, their voices a gentle hum that blended with the subtle fragrance of fresh flowers arranged throughout the hall. Daniel Harper stood at my side, offering a nod of encouragement, his calm presence grounding me as I adjusted the papers in my hand, preparing to address the crowd. The interns and staff moved about discreetly, arranging the final touches on the room's setup, their careful coordination adding a rhythm of order and professionalism to the space. I raised my head, letting my gaze sweep across the audience, noting the subtle expressions of curiosity and admiration that met my eyes, the recognition of the work we had accomplished together palpable yet unspoken. I took a slow, deliberate breath, feeling the warmth of sunlight on my shoulders, the soft murmurs fading into a serene background, and stepped forward, my footsteps echoing lightly across the floor as I approached the podium. As I began to speak, my voice steady and clear, the room seemed to respond to the quiet authority of presence rather than volume, the words flowing effortlessly yet carrying the weight of intention and accomplishment. The audience listened, some nodding in agreement, others exchanging glances that reflected the recognition of my journey and the realization of my role in shaping the vision before them. The gentle shift of sunlight through the windows created dancing patterns across the walls, subtly highlighting the architectural lines I had so carefully designed, a visual testament to the synthesis of effort, creativity, and perseverance. Yet, amidst the calm and acknowledgement, a subtle undercurrent of anticipation lingered, the quiet thought of Lucas, the wedding, and the unfolding of moments yet to come threading through my consciousness. I allowed a small, serene smile to rest upon my lips, a reflection of inner peace and quiet victory, yet the delicate tension of unresolved curiosity remained, the question of what the next encounter or revelation might bring hovering softly in the sunlit room. Each measured gesture, each deliberate breath, was both a celebration of accomplishment and a preparation for the unknown, leaving the space alive with possibility,